This is a new Chilean scare. 6 most disturbing 4chan threads. I want to watch this.
DIY crystals. On August 18, 2009, an anonymous user on 4chan shared a seemingly innocent guide, how to grow stunning crystals at home using common household items. The recipe included items like laundry bleach, table salt, baking soda, pennies or some other copper coins, and ammonia. The instructions were straightforward. Mix these ingredients in a large glass jar, add the pennies, and blow on them through a straw to trigger the reaction. However, anyone who followed these instructions was in for a horrific surprise. What seemed like a harmless DIY experiment turned into a nightmare, because the original poster's promise of beautiful DIY crystals was a flat-out lie. In reality, combining ammonia and bleach produces chlorine gas, an insidious and highly toxic chemical. Chlorine gas can cause severe respiratory damage, excruciating chemical burns, and even permanent injury with just brief exposure. Prolonged exposure to high concentrations, on the other hand, can be life-threatening. And even if someone manages to survive, the excruciating pain with every breath feels like razor blades scraping their lungs. It's a literal war chemical that
Dude, I've experienced that before. If you have asthma, you know what I mean. The feeling of not being able to breathe is terrifying. It's so bad, man. I'm serious, man. You don't fuck with that.
It was used by Germany during World War I and resulted in the deaths of over 90,000 soldiers. To make matters worse, the step involving blowing on the pennies with a straw wasn't just pointless. It ensured that anyone attempting this experiment would lean in closer to the jar, inhaling a much higher dose of the deadly gas. For someone to trick people into creating this deadly chemical in their home goes beyond the realm of simply trolling. It was calculated and downright malicious. The original thread has since been lost to time, leaving no way to determine just how many people fell victim to this cruel trick. However, I did uncover a reply posted just a few days later. In it, someone shared
I had asthma really bad as a kid. Doctors say you're supposed to like grow out of it or whatever, you know? And I have, like, for the most part. I don't really need an inhaler anymore or anything like that. Like, I haven't for years. I did need an inhaler when I had COVID, though. I don't think that had anything to do with my asthma. It was literally COVID.
Their horrifying experience of attempting the experiment, where instead of creating cool-looking crystals, they nearly died after inhaling the toxic fumes and had to spend a week in a hospital bed to recover. And from what I could find, he wasn't the only victim of this inhumane prank. The original thread eventually morphed into a copypasta, spreading across the internet like wildfire. It popped up on platforms like Reddit, Tumblr, and even in Roblox servers, where it could easily reach a younger, more impressionable audience. Even if viewers figured out something might be off, multiple replies...
Oh, this is just crazy, man. Like, I get trying to spread a meme or something, you know, that's cool, but like, you know, it's funny, it's cool, it's whatever, you know, but like, dude, come on, man. This is like actual life-threatening shit. I just don't get it, man. This fucking generation is so fucked beyond repair. It's just insane.
Like, amazing, can confirm this works, and okay, just finished after a long, hard 25-minute blow, looks amazing OP, could easily erase any doubts and make the post seem legitimate. Tragically, that's likely what happened to an 11-year-old boy in Maryland. On the 18th of June 2015, someone made a post on the legal advice subreddit with the ominous title, "My son accidentally killed himself because of 4chan." What followed was a heartbreaking account of a tragedy that could have been avoided. It stated, "About a month ago, my 11-year-old son accidentally died when he followed instructions he saw online on a website called 4chan. Someone had posted detailed instructions on how to make what he believed to be crystals, but turned out to be poison. Is there any legal action I can take against the person who ruined my life and devastated my family?
Jesus Christ.
A friend recommended I ask around before paying for a lawyer. Any help would be appreciated." Sadly, due to the anonymous nature of sites like 4chan, there's no feasible way for this parent to uncover the identity of the original poster or seek justice for their son. The only silver lining here is that this deadly copypasta...
Nah, you ain't gonna find the guy that posted this, man. There ain't no fucking way, man. Ironically, I think the only person that could find it would be 4chan.
...since faded into obscurity, reducing the chance of more victims falling into its trap. What does B keep in the...
I mean, that's assuming it's true, right? Like, that person that posted about their kid, you know, doing it, they could also be, like, in on the prank as well. I'm not saying it was fake, but what I'm saying is it's like everything online, you know, you don't want to... Whenever you see something online, just have an open mind. Don't actually believe it.
Freezer.
You know?
On December 5th, 2007, a user on 4chan's random board started a very innocent-looking thread with the title, "What does B keep in the freezer? Guess what's in mine?" Alongside this, the anonymous user also posted a picture of an open freezer with something black sticking out of the bottom. At first, most people saw this as nothing more than a joke and gave humorous answers like cake and Bambi's mom. Some also turned to dark humor, with one reply speculating if the OP had a body in the freezer. This guess turned out to be more true than anyone could have imagined. About 5 minutes later, the OP replied with a chilling, "well done," alongside a photo of what appeared to be a severed human leg stored in the freezer. Over the next 10 minutes, the OP posted 2 more images. One revealed multiple severed limbs wrapped in a black plastic bag, and the other showed the OP's hand in front of these limbs, giving a disturbingly casual thumbs up. Shortly after, the OP vanished from the thread, leaving others to speculate about the true origin of these limbs. Some users tried to debunk the photos, with one attempting to reverse image search to prove they'd been lifted from somewhere online. However, they couldn't find any matching images anywhere on the internet, suggesting the chilling possibility that the OP had taken the photos himself. This raised an unsettling question: were the body parts in those images real? It's entirely possible the limbs were just props, likely for a horror film or a similar project. The OP might have staged the photos by placing the props in a freezer to make them resemble the aftermath of a horrific crime. But as one reply in the original thread pointed out, the body parts looked far too realistic to be mere props. They also displayed signs of freezer burn, something that would only happen with actual skin and flesh. Now, if the limbs were real, it raises an even more disturbing question: who did they belong to? Unfortunately, the original poster didn't give any hints in any of his posts. However, after examining every detail, I managed to narrow it down to some of the most plausible theories. The first and most horrifying is that the OP was a serial killer, and those limbs belonged to their victims. However, this theory, while chilling, is also the least likely. Serial killers who taunt the public with evidence of their crimes often leave trails to claim responsibility or provoke fear. They might include cryptic notes, references to other crimes, or follow-ups to attract more attention. But this OP did none of that. There were no cryptic messages or any further attempts to draw attention.
It's like very common. Like, do you guys watch like crime documentaries and stuff, man? I love crime documentaries. Just like interviews with like serial killers and just how the police went about catching a serial killer, you know, that kind of stuff, man. I'm really into that, man. Like forensic files. And one thing that I see a lot in these documentaries is that like the serial killer will always want to make sure that they are the one that gets credit for it. Like that's why they take like trophies and shit. That's why they do things in a certain way. That's why, like, as he just said, they'll leave cryptic notes or, you know, shit like that, right? They don't want anyone else taking the credit for what they do. You know what I'm saying? Because they're fucked up in the head, man.
Attention beyond the initial. So cryptic notes, references to other crimes, or follow-ups to attract more attention. But this OP did none of that. There were no cryptic messages or any further attempts to draw attention beyond the initial post. Additionally, sharing such damning evidence anonymously without any follow-up doesn't fit the profile of someone seeking notoriety or validation for their actions. The second theory is the OP stole the body parts from a morgue where he worked. However, the main issue with this theory is that the vast majority of morgues operate under strict regulations, and missing body parts are treated as a serious violation. Such an act would likely result in an investigation, making it almost impossible for the OP to smuggle out limbs unnoticed. Which leaves us with the last and most plausible option. The limbs were real and actually belonged to the OP. As absurd as it may sound, there have been several cases of people preserving their own amputated limbs after accidents or illness for sentimental reasons. Some hospitals even have procedures that allow patients to take possession of their amputated limbs.
I didn't know that. That's news to me.
These are all theories with no concrete evidence to support any of them. And with nearly 18 years having passed since the original thread appeared, it's unlikely we'll ever uncover the truth behind this disturbing mystery. Drone stalking.
Why the fuck would a guy keep his leg? Dude, you know what? Why am I even asking this question? Why am I asking this question? People will literally do anything.
On the 10th of April 2020, someone started a thread on 4chan with a seemingly bizarre question. Is this dude wearing a full face mask inside? Alongside the post, they shared a photo of a couple lounging on their couch watching something on a laptop. And while the guy in the picture looked a bit creepy with his covered face, he was most likely wearing a skincare mask. But what caught everyone's attention was the odd framing of this picture, with one person asking, "Why are you taking photos inside some random dude's house?"
Yeah.
That's when things took a turn from strange to downright disturbing. The OP responded to this question by explaining that the apartment actually belonged to the girl in the photo, who was an Instagram influencer. He also mentioned that he had been, quote, following her. In other words, the OP was admitting to being a stalker.
Jesus
Naturally, this
Christ.
raised even more questions. Another user asked how he was able to take this picture from their porch without getting spotted, and the response was quite disturbing. The OP explained that the apartment was a high-rise building and they'd been using a drone to stalk the girl from kilometers away. To further prove their story, the OP shared a screenshot of an Instagram story posted by the girl. In it, she expressed her fear and discomfort after spotting a drone
What
hovering
the
outside her
fuck?
window. The caption saying, "This drone literally came outside my window and chilled there for a while. This can't be legal, right?" However, before anyone could extract more information from the OP, he disappeared from the thread, leaving everyone wondering about his creepy behavior. Some users speculated that the entire post was fake, pointing out that the lights visible in the original image were missing from the Instagram story. However, a closer examination of the original photo reveals that the OP wasn't lying. If you examine the image carefully, you can see the drone reflected in the window. So, it looks to be real.
What
Unfortunately,
the
that's where the
fuck?
trail ends. I was unable to track down the girl in the photo or the original Instagram story she shared. Hopefully, she was able to take legal action against this 4chan stalker.
Dude, what the fuck is wrong with people, man? I mean, but you shouldn't have to leave your windows uncovered, dude. And didn't they say she was like high up in the air? Like, who's gonna be outside your house outside your apartment in the air? What is this?
Sheep Killer Mystery. On the 28th of January 2021, a user on 4chan's paranormal board made a lengthy post titled Mystery Sheep Killer. OP explained that he lived on a farm in rural Denmark, surrounded by animals, mostly sheep. One early morning, around 5 a.m., he heard an unearthly scream. It was so unsettling that he struggled to describe it. A second scream followed shortly after, but living next to a forest, strange animal noises weren't uncommon. So he brushed it off and went back to sleep. And sure enough, everything seemed fairly normal the next morning. However, 2 days later, something happened that shook him to his core. While heading to his college, the OP spotted his dad dragging a sheep carcass through the backyard. Now, deaths on the OP's farm weren't unusual, but this was different, and his dad admitted he'd never seen anything like it before. The left side of the sheep's face was entirely gone, stripped clean to the bone. Whatever attacked it had devoured the entire side of its face, including its tongue. Upon closer inspection, OP found no signs of a struggle, no claw marks, no torn wool, just a few bird feathers near the carcass. Some users on 4chan speculated that it might be a fox or another predator, but the evidence didn't line up. It's highly unusual for any predator to target a prey's face so precisely while leaving the rest of the body untouched. A few people also speculated that maybe the sheep was killed by some crazy person on drugs, which would explain the almost precise cut. The claim that made the most sense, however, was that the sheep died of some natural cause and was later eaten by a bird. And while this theory explained the random feathers on the body, it failed to account for the multiple screams OP heard a few days before. Unfortunately, with no evidence to go on, the case went cold for several weeks.
Maybe it was just
That was
coincidence.
until March 30th, when OP posted another update, and things took an even darker turn. A couple of weeks later, after his first post, things got even worse for OP. One night, he heard strange noises coming from the kitchen. When he went to check, his cat was freaking out, staring out the window like it had seen something terrifying. Later that night, he heard the same blood-curdling scream again. And the next morning, his worst fear came true. Another sheep had been killed in the exact same brutal way. Sadly, he hasn't posted any updates since March of 2021. And without more evidence and clues, it's unlikely we'll ever find out what really happened. Glowing blue syringe.
I don't know. Maybe it was just... Couldn't the scream have been the sheep? Yeah, maybe it was just the sheep.
On December 11th, 2012, an anonymous user posted a photo of a syringe filled with glowing liquid, asking fellow users which part of his body he should inject it into.
Oh.
When one user asked for a timestamp to prove
Oh my god, dude. Why does 4chan exist, bro?
that this was real, the OP complied almost immediately. This demonstrated that he was willing to follow whatever instructions other users gave him. However, no one anticipated that he would actually go through with his promise. But when one user replied with wrist to his question, OP replied with a picture of him injecting the mystery fluid into a vein. And while others were still processing what they had just witnessed, the OP returned to the thread and posted pictures of his veins glowing in the same color, simply saying, "Veins glowing." However, before others had a chance to question OP about what this fluorescent liquid was, he stopped posting on the thread. Now, after a closer look, most users came to the conclusion that the OP extracted this mysterious liquid from a glow stick. If this was true, it would explain his mysterious disappearance. Glow stick liquid is extremely toxic and can lead to fatal heart issues if injected into the body. In other words, the reason OP stopped replying was likely because he was either hospitalized or had already died from the consequences of his idiotic actions. And when no updates came, even months after the original thread, most users assumed the worst, that he had in fact passed away. However, this theory has two significant flaws. For starters, there's no record of anyone dying from injecting glow stick fluid into their veins. A death this unusual would likely attract at least some media attention, yet there's absolutely no coverage of such an incident anywhere. More importantly, there's plenty of evidence to suggest that the whole thing is fake. For instance, in the photo where he supposedly injected the fluid, the needle looks to be just resting on top of his wrist rather than penetrating the skin. As for the image showing his veins glowing after the injection, it's probably just photoshopped to look that way. It does look somewhat convincing at first until you notice the odd shape of the glowing veins. Wrist veins in most people don't make sharp, unnatural turns like the one shown in the image. Put simply, the OP likely created this thread purely for attention. It's highly probable that he's perfectly fine and never actually carried out the dangerous stunt he claimed.
I mean, if that's true, which I mean, it's probably not, but if that's true, like, this person deserves that. Like, they're an idiot. You know, play stupid games, win stupid prizes shit, you know?
Forest grenade. There have been multiple instances of 4chan users coming across real grenades and causing disasters. Like the incident I covered in a previous video where someone actually dropped a live grenade into their toilet because 4chan users dared them to do it.
Dude.
And another user did a similar stunt. It all started on the 26th of June 2012 when someone posted a picture of a rust-covered grenade with the caption, "Look what I found laying in the forest today. Is it dangerous?" 4chan users of course acted like they always do and started suggesting the OP to, quote, pull the pin already. When he asked again if this thing was dangerous, another user replied, nah, just pull the pin. After requesting a picture of the bottom of the grenade, one user
Nah, just pull the pin. Holy shit, man.
pointed out that because the bottom wasn't drilled out, it was likely still live, as practice or unused grenades were always drilled at the bottom. But despite asking others about the potential dangers, the OP chose to ignore their warnings. Instead, he continued experimenting with the grenade, seemingly driven by curiosity to see what would happen. He then proceeded to break its pin mechanism, microwave the grenade, and put it in a small fire, all while asking users for what to do next.
What?
However, after posting a picture of him running
Microwave a grenade.
over with his car, the OP stopped replying to any more requests and was never heard from again. Some believe that the grenade was either fake or was already disabled, while others think it may have actually detonated, costing the OP his life. However, after hours of searching the web, I wasn't able to find any news articles talking about someone dying from a grenade around that time. It's also possible that the grenade was real, but after so many failed experiments, the OP simply got bored and moved on with his life. Whatever the truth may be, it's unlikely we'll ever know for sure, especially 13 years later.
Jesus. Yo, that was a good video. That was good.